Hey everyone, my name's Nathan Pay and welcome to another episode of Coffee and Crypto. I've got a real special treat for you guys here. We have Miles, our most esteemed guest, of course, joining us again, as always.
Thank you for having me, as usual. I love being here.
You're very welcome. And we have Haters, who is a comedy rapper who recently just did an album, Wall Street Sets, and we wanted to talk to him a little bit about that and kind of hear the inspiration on why. And I know, Miles, you had some questions prepared, so why don't we jump right into it?
And we'll have some information in the description if you guys want to pick up his album later on, or if you want to hear anything about that or know anything about that. So
awesome.
Yeah. So I just wanted you maybe first to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into comedy rap and how you got into, making your album.
Yeah. So I've been doing music my whole life. I started by playing the violin in grade 4.
Nice.
And then I played oboe all through high school.
Okay.
And I picked up the guitar in grade 9. And then I got into music production about 7 years ago.
Sweet.
And was doing like EDM stuff, like trance, dubstep, that sort of thing.
Yeah, if you guys want to know the true secret behind my Heroes of Mafia music, this guy is my sensei. This guy gives me pointers. And also there's other people in my guild too. But this guy is my main man for pointers on music production to get started. He taught me a couple things, and that's how I was able to make the
Makes more sense now.
music that I do.
Awesome.
Download Reaper. That's what you need to get started. It's a good digital audio workstation that you can use for free.
Start. Yeah,
and then you can pay for it if you like it. It's a good way to get started. That's how I got started.
Nice.
So.
Well, so I'm curious about this actual album. How did this album come about, and what gave you the idea? How did you conceive of this album?
I guess it sort of started because of coronavirus. I was a restaurant manager, and so basically everyone at the restaurant, it was at a hotel. Everyone lost their job at once.
I remember.
So I was had a bit of money then, so I got into stock market and investing, and then just like being entertained by reading the Wall Street Bets forum and all the jokes on there.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And I've always been into comedy, so I was like, that's kind of like what inspired me to like start and make a full-length comedy album about the stock market and investing and all that stuff.
It makes sense to me now. It makes sense to me now. Yeah, I listened to the entire album, and I really, really appreciate the way that it sounds. Especially there's a song that you have that's called "Money Printer Go Brrrr." And it's one of my it's one of my absolute favorite songs, and it like talks about like inflation a little bit, and it talks about like the bubble a little bit. And I wanted you to maybe elaborate on that and what were your thoughts behind that song.
So that was actually the first song that I made for the album. I had a digital extension that you could like play with and make funny noises, and
you make some cool sounds.
It's like a sampler basically.
Yeah.
And I initially made the song way too complicated because I was using the sampler on every track. So I had like 16 tracks with like 6 samples on each track.
I remember hearing the early versions of it when you were showing it to me, and yeah, the finished version sounds a lot more streamlined than the early versions did. The early versions were eclectic.
Yeah. And then I found videos of Jerome Powell, who's the Federal Reserve Chairman of the United States. Yeah. And I clipped it together, so he's saying "Money Printer Go Brrrr" and some other stuff, some other jokes. So
I kind of wanted to interject here. Did you notice when you lost your job, COVID happened, you kind of got into stocks and investing? What was that like for you? Is that really what kind of opened your eyes up to a lot of the stuff that was going on, and what inspired you kind of originally to talk about some of the things you did?
So like I didn't really know anything about options trading, and I kind of learned about that through that whole like experience, and just like kind of understanding what's going on in the world. And that was also a really big time for retail investors, like the Robinhood app made it very accessible for people, and also kind of like a lot of investing people like conflate it with gambling. So and Robinhood sort of like pushed that on people too in a way.
Yeah,
so,
I remember that whole thing being talked about a couple of years ago. And a lot of there were other YouTubers that I actually know that were like fans of Robinhood and who were getting paid sponsorships from Robinhood. And overnight they're like, yeah, we don't do that anymore. There's a good reason for that, but I can't put that in this video.
Right.
So yeah, that was an interesting time.
Yeah, it's interesting because for me, with like, I kind of skipped that. I went right into crypto. That's where I got my feet wet, I guess, with investing. And yeah, very quickly you kind of see what's behind the veil a little bit, I guess is the easy way to explain it. And it was interesting for me because I didn't start with the traditional stock kind of route to get that foundation. So kind of I jumped into crypto, and then I had to like backtrack to try to understand, well, how is the regular financial system set up? Because I never had a way to compare. And I've always found that, you know, we've been taught even growing up, investing's hard, it's difficult, you got to take courses. Like it's kind of this thing over here that seems like very difficult and daunting to understand.
Yeah, hard to get.
Then you get into crypto and you're like, wait, I get this now. I have something that I can compare to.
Yeah.
And it allows you to kind of juxtapose between it. And I just found that really helped facilitate my understanding on like finances and, you know, to the certain extent that your research and your internet allows you to consume information, because I'm sure there's so much out there I still, you know, don't understand.
Of course.
There's a lot of jargon, and it is complicated.
Yeah.
I did take a couple of finance courses,
Okay.
Canadian securities course,
Oh, I know.
and my life insurance license. So
Oh, nice.
I do have a little background in finance,
Oh, sweet.
but it's definitely very confusing and complicated. And I think a lot of it for retail investors, especially with like companies like Robinhood, is about getting people to trade a lot,
Yeah.
so they generate those bank fees on each transaction.
That's right.
Transactional businesses are the best type of model for any business to make money, period. That's why exchanges make so much money,
Yeah,
because
even
they're
the
transactional.
decentralized ones. That's right.
Yeah, transactional type services. But for me with crypto, it's the same thing. Like, it's complicated to a lot of people if you don't spend the time to understand the technology and kind of the moving parts behind it. So for me, coming into crypto and then looking back on finance, I found like, oh, this is complicated in its own kind of unique way. Sure, crypto has helped me gain an understanding of it, but
So-
I can't just assume I know it.
This is a topic that always amuses me because there's a lot of people that I know that are very much not crypto people. They wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. But they spend a lot of time learning and understanding in-game economies in order to play and better understand video games. And it's like, well, you're applying all this knowledge to a video game so that you can game that economy. Why can you not game the economy of real life through crypto maybe a little bit?
That's an interesting
what I- yeah.
extension to kind of think
There's
about
this
it.
because they're way over here on the one side, but they're actually way over here on the other side, and they should be way over here on both. And I think it's weird. I just think it's a little weird. It's really like a difference in thought that some people have. And for me, it was like an easy yes. It's like, well, I could literally, if I wanted to, I could day trade just because I know, how ups and downs work, and because I played, enough video games with economics where things go up and down, and that's how you make your money in those games, or you know what I mean. I don't have a background in finance. I developed my understanding of finance through the internet and through playing video games and through watching real life economies. So that's interesting to me. That's what I think.
Same here. That's kind of how I did it as well. It's just real world application, and games actually helped more than I ever would have expected.
Yeah.
Right? It's
Really?
like because the whole play to earn NFT kind of side of
Well,
things.
simulated economies have been going on for a very long
Yes.
time. They just weren't being taken seriously until now.
But now when you get to see so many different ones, it kind of gives you a broader perspective to kind of look at the system as a whole and then
Yeah.
extend that to Bitcoin and Ethereum and all these
Yeah.
other coins and
Yeah,
other
yeah.
things. And then to traditional stocks, because they have a direct correlation. Like you can see when something happens in the traditional markets, it often bleeds through into crypto. So then you're like, well, okay, I think I need to understand that now. Because if it's going to be impacting the world that I'm involved in, I need to gain a better understanding. So, yeah, what was the next question that you had there?
You have a lyric in one of your songs. It says, the song is called Game, The Game Don't Stop, and the lyric is, tax break scheme looks like a shell for me. And I wanted you to maybe speak about that a little bit. Like, I wanted you to talk about...
Right. So a lot of my album is makes fun of the super rich. I have one song called Elon Musk from the Street, for example.
I love that track. I'm going to send that to you later.
Please do.
So like the one thing about the super rich too is they have all these ways to avoid taxes that the common person doesn't have. So that's kind of the basis of that line there.
That's right. Yeah.
And like all the shell companies that people make just to avoid taxes for themselves is
that's a big problem right now. And actually it's a huge conversation that people are having right now about properly taxing the ultra rich, you know what I mean? And a lot of them get around those taxes with things like this.
Well, it's interesting you guys bring that up because, yes, there are things like moving countries, like Belize, Peru. There's different places in the world that kind of say, oh, we don't have capital gains tax here. There's just personal income tax. And people are literally moving in droves. Ecuador is another good example. And it's because they're incentivizing the less taxes. And then there's even things like creating offshore LLCs.
Yeah.
So you funnel
right.
all your crypto through offshore LLCs, and then you're skirting around tax implications. And of course, nothing we say here is financial advice. But this is just stuff that we've discerned, you know, and I'm no expert at it. I haven't drilled in to figure out what's the way, but you do start to see, that there is kind of certain business structures, operating companies, holding companies, family trusts, offshore LLCs, even moving residents and stuff like that. And I feel like that's people's right if they want to move and leave and kind of gamify the system. But I also agree with you, the common person is not educated on that. It's actually very difficult to even get that information, to have the understanding, and it does feel very coveted.
Even like looking at a company like Tesla, how much money they made from tax breaks the government just gave them was a lot of their revenue and a lot of the way that like Elon Musk built his wealth. So
that's a fact.
Like being able to take advantage of these large systems to your own benefit when you have a tremendous amount of wealth is, I don't know, just something that I poke fun at in my album. So
right on.
Yeah.
So one of my personal favorite songs on your album is called "This Is the Way," and there's a bit about it that talks about day trading and about buying the dip and going all in on GameStop. So I just wanted to bring it around again and maybe just ask your opinion about like day trading and about buying the dip and what you think about that. And is that just a trend to you, or do you understand?
And GameStop too.
Yeah, and the GameStop.
Yeah. So this song is about basically the idea is that you're acting like a degenerate. And you're spending your money foolishly and you're losing it all. And that's how it's supposed to be.
And that's how it's supposed to be.
So it's encouraging and embracing not necessarily the healthiest financial lifestyle, but that's kind of like the whole premise behind it.
Yeah, of course, it's supposed to be a mockery.
There's actually kind of a culture in crypto around that. People call each other degens is kind of like
it's a term of
kudos thing.
Right.
Like it's not degrading.
And YOLO
and they'll be like, just ape in. Like I didn't do any research. Doesn't matter, man. Just throw your money in. Like it's gonna move.
It's like see those like little like emojis where it's just like pump it. And it's got that dude doing the thing. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Those people are ridiculous.
I think one of the lines in my song is like, due diligence is reading 10 people post fuck it, I'm in. You know?
Yes.
That's kind of like...
It's oddly true, right? Like there's a lot of people,
there was
especially in crypto, who learn that where they're like, oh shit, I need to do more due diligence. I need to understand how to understand projects. I can't just listen to the last 5 or 10 people that told me it was a good idea.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's making people a little bit more thick-skinned.
It's a big reason why we developed our research team.
That's right. Because
we started a research team in the first place is so that we could have like a hub for people to get that sort of knowledge, that they don't just go fuck it, I'm in, and not know what the hell they're talking about, get burned, and then think that crypto is the worst thing in the world type deal. We don't want that. We want the opposite.
That's right.
We want them to make a smart choice, see some good stuff, and then go, this is actually really great, and then show their friends.
Yeah, or just get your feet wet first before you dive in, you know,
well,
just
exactly.
Learn how everything works before you...
That's right.
Yeah.
Start throwing money at the wall and seeing what sticks, essentially.
Yeah.
Which kind of crypto is a little bit inherent for that. Like, a lot of liquidity coming in, people are making quick money, so then they're just disseminating it out without doing a lot of research. And like you said, that's kind of why we wanted to help facilitate that with projects in our company, so people can come to us, read the research reports. We've done a lot of the due diligence and then feel confident, or at least more confident in their decision.
Well, we've also spent a lot of time in the trenches. Like,
yes.
You know what I mean? Just like figuring this stuff out for ourselves. Like we had through the development cycles of a lot of games now, and through the economic cycles of a lot of Web3 games now. And so we know sort of certain things about how an economic system should be, for example, and if it's going to be like inflationary or not, and things like that. The way that the team members of a particular project might react to having investors, or if they're going to have investors at all, or if they're just leaning on gamers, or what their
I also think it's good
is there. You know what I mean?
To preface that came from a lot of research in decentralized finance originally. So it wasn't like we just jumped right into games. It was kind of like, I think the way I explained it is Bitcoin led me to Ethereum. Ethereum led me to altcoins. Altcoins led me to DeFi. DeFi led me to play to earn. It was just this like sequence of events.
That's what we call the rabbit hole.
Right? And kind of like understanding each of those or each of those transitions gave me a better understanding of the whole to make more educated decisions as I went. Because I definitely made some dumb calls in the beginning, not knowing what I'm doing, but the experience I gained from that is invaluable to me at this point. But I do feel for people who use their rent money, or took out a loan when they couldn't have, or You know, and we've all got those stories. If you've been in the space long enough, you know, you can't say, "Oh, I've only won." Like, where's that person?
That person, yeah,
they invested once and got lucky.
Lambo, exactly. One Lambo,
right? So I'm really curious to hear about the GameStop aspect that you kind of mentioned there a little bit, and kind of how that got incorporated into the song a little bit, or maybe not necessarily in the song, but used as some of the inspiration.
Sure. Yeah. So I guess like for a while now, GameStop has been one of the most popular meme stocks there is.
Yeah.
So that's why I wrote a whole song about GameStop, and mostly about hyping up GameStop.
Okay.
Because it's for the GameStop fans, basically.
Right on. Yeah. Nice.
The game don't stop.
What's your opinion on that whole thing that kind of transpired with GameStop? We don't have to go too deep into it.
Sure. I guess like my opinion is that I don't really know enough about it to tell other people exactly what's going on, but it definitely is a demonstration that retail investors do have power.
That's how I feel too.
In the markets, but institutions will play dirty, and if something's going in retail traders' favor and they don't like it, they can interfere in illegal or legal ways, however they see fit, and that's kind of what you saw with like the trade halts and that. So
I find that whole stuff very interesting. You know, I kind of had to go back and look into that after the fact through crypto, and kind of so many references to it, and of course all the memes. It's very much in culture, and it was like, okay, I want to actually try to figure out what kind of information I can disseminate, and I kind of got to the same conclusion. I'm like, there's a lot of information out there, but I can't speak confidently on what actually happened, because I feel at this point the information is so just mixed and muddled with both sides and both kinds of information that it's a good example to me why we have crypto and these other financial opportunities and solutions to some of the corruption. And now, don't get me wrong, crypto's not privy to that too. Like, it happens in crypto. We're not safe from it either. If anything, it's a little bit more wild, wild west in a certain way. I mean, we kind of seen some things that happened with Terra Luna and other stuff, which I won't go into too much, but GameStop was kind of a good example to me to be like, hey, I need to just look a little closer here and kind of understand. And that was kind of what I deduced too, that retail has more power than I think people will give them credit for.
Well, even regular people had power, you know what I mean? And the thing that was interesting to me was watching like regular people use the internet and other means to come together and make large investment decisions as a group.
Yeah.
And that was like the first time that ever happened and was publicized so much in history.
It's like a DAO in crypto.
It was almost like a DAO in crypto. And so then right after that, I went down the rabbit hole and started seeing these DAOs popping up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're doing exactly what the other people on Reddit did with the fucking, you know what I mean? And I saw the mirror there, and I was like, these people are doing honest trading. They're just doing it against a really big enemy, and you know what I mean? They're trying to stand up to the big boy, and I want to stand up to the big boy, and that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well said.
The big boy are the people, when I say the big boy, I'm really talking about the people who made, you know, some less than legal sometimes decisions and who did some not so nice things, and the people who like see how backwards the institution is and look away from that thing, thinking that, you know, if I look towards this, then it's just going to cause me trouble. No, you need to go through that trouble so that you can fix the system.
That's right.
That's why we're all here trying to build stuff in the crypto world right now.
Yep. You nailed it.
That's it. That's how I feel. And then I only have really like one more question for you. The question is, what do you think we could do as an international society to improve economic systems around the world? What do you think would be a good solution to, like, we have this big problem of a backwards economic system in not just one country, but all of them. And we're watching the banks topple over as we see how delicate they actually are.
Well, that's a very big question.
It is. Isn't it? I don't really
personally, if I had complete control over the whole economy, I would have some sort of government housing building projects, because there's a global housing shortage crisis. That's one thing.
Yeah, to start to develop housing for the world.
Yeah, and there's definitely like a lot of pushback even in countries like Britain and France for just like rights of workers to be paid a fair wage, teachers and nurses and all that. Like, if you're investing in your people and your economy that are providing value and they can spend money in the economy, you can build a virtuous cycle.
So you're saying we should work from the bottom up and build a virtuous cycle?
Yeah, and also like we spend about 2% of our GDP on the military, and a lot of it goes to salaries for people, so that's valuable. And there are some like military functions like natural disaster relief and stuff like that, but just like bombing each other and fighting and wasting our resources when we could be investing that in infrastructure or education or healthcare, I think is a waste as well. So
I believe that.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that.
Now, it's interesting you bring that up because I think right away, blockchain. It's like, imagine if every company, every single transaction was publicly viewable. Well, firstly, that wouldn't work because businesses can't operate without secrets. It's just kind of, you need secrets. I mean, the only reason why people go at each other's throats is because someone thinks they know something that they don't, if you really kind of go down to the lowest level. But I think about charities and corporations and governments. If everything was on the blockchain, that means all of those financial transactions, how much people are getting paid, where their money's going, to what lobbyists, to what, all of a sudden that becomes public. Think of the world that we would live in if that was the case. We can't get there right now. Mm-hmm. There's no way. You can't just make that switch and expect all these companies to operate, because what if the public really knew, without naming some of the big names, but what if the public really knew what these big names really did with all their money?
Sure.
And I feel like that could be a good way to bring power back to the people, because we could keep governments accountable, we could keep charities
accountable.
So
you're saying more transparency through technology.
That's right. And we have the technology to do that. It's the blockchain. Mm-hmm. So if everything was ran through that, then all of a sudden all of this is public information. Governments can't hide what they're doing with their money. Charities can't. Businesses can't. Politicians can't. Lobbyists can't, because everyone gets to see.
Right.
What a crazy world that would be. Right?
Which or to take it even further, you could have like people voting for every issue on Parliament on their cell phone and have a real democracy.
Yeah,
that's true.
There we go. Let's go. Right? Well, I got to say, it's been a real pleasure having you on and getting to discuss some of these topics. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, man.
Definitely.
Thanks,
we'll make sure to leave all your information down in the comments below. If anyone wants to find out more information,
guys,
definitely
Haters the
check
Rapper
that out.
Is one of my best friends in the entire world, and you can find his album at funraps.com, and there'll be more information. Thank you for coming out, man. I really appreciate you being here and talking to us.
Yeah, was there anything you'd like to say to our community before we sign off?
Appreciate all the support. If you want to check out my lyrics videos too, you can. It's YouTube at Comedy Rap, and my website is funraps.com. So appreciate all the support.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much for everyone joining us today. And until next time,
like and subscribe, please.
Cheers. Don't forget about our 1,000 subscriber giveaway, where you can win $200. And if you need more information, be sure to join us on our Discord. See you there.